When you tune in to Shaw TV Monday through Thursday at 7:30 a.m., you will see a host who has beautiful feathers, a sharp beak, keen eyes, and a big wingspan. Wildlife biologist David Hancock is not the host of that. He researches, studies, and takes pictures of birds of prey. Bald eagles are one of his favorite subjects, and it is my pleasure to welcome David Hancock back to Studio 4 to tell us more.
Good to be here,
Although
Fanny.
you do have keen eyes.
I do.
Bright eyes.
Good, thank you.
Don't see many feathers.
No, but the eagles are kind of mine. They belong collectively to everybody, but I'm kind of the godfather.
You kind of are.
I kind of am, and it's a lovely honor that Shaw has run our website with these live eagle cams and brought them to a different audience. So it's quite marvelous.
Well, every morning when I come in, I check the bird. You check the Boyd. How's she doing? And it appears something's popped.
Two things have popped. She laid 2 eggs, and they have both hatched. And they did something unusual this year. Normally, eggs are laid 3 days apart, and they hatch 3 days apart. But in this case, they both hatched within the same day, literally, which is unusual. So both chicks are almost the same size. And,
Really?
And this may be one of these phenomena we see differently between wilderness eagles and town eagles, because the town eagles seem to be doing this phenomenon more frequently of hatching their eggs at the same time. But one of the reasons is probably that our town in particular, which I have labeled some years back the eagle capital of the world, Vancouver, because there's so many of them here. But our town has so much good food for eagles. It means probably they don't have to compete one chick with the other.
Right.
There's just a lot of food available, and they both have good likelihood of surviving. And so the normal test was if they're 3 days apart, the big one gets the food, and the little one, if there's not much food, starves to death.
Too bad.
Yeah, but now they can afford to be the same age and compete because our mom and pa's generally bring in a great surplus of food. So they both do very well. And in all likelihood, both these chicks are going to fledge about 11 and a half weeks from today.
Will we capture that?
They fledge 12 weeks almost to the day from when they were hatched. So and they hatched last weekend. So they should be hatching fledging in just about 12 weeks.
Okay, and when they fledge, leave the nest and flap.
You got it, yeah.
Who goes with them? The mom, the dad? They go by themselves?
They go by themselves, usually one at a time. And in the normal circumstance, not always the town circumstance, but in the normal circumstance, Ma would quit and Pa would quit feeding them a day or two before, just as they were ready to fly.
Okay.
They've been spending days on the edge of the nest, pounding their wings, building up the muscle strength. Then a couple of days of going without food, they're starting to drop their baby fat, and all of a sudden, off they go. A bit of a breeze comes, and up they go on their wings, and they fly around the neighborhood. And both of them usually fledge within a day or two of each other. Then, after about 4 or 5 days of the parents usually flying around, giving them kind of protection from above, but not necessarily feeding them, the parents abandon them. They haven't taught them anything.
After how many days?
Maybe
5?
5, maybe a week.
5 days. That's a short
tutoring
session.
And that's in the wilderness. The town eagles often get 2 weeks of catering. It's phenomenal
we're a little
living in
spoiled
cities, isn't it?
Town.
We are.
No, but we're just seeing some live footage of her
good.
now. We just saw it, and we can run it again, I'm sure. There's like she's bringing food, it looks like to me.
And
you'll have to take
this was
a look.
yesterday, and the little newly hatched chicks were getting one of their earliest feeds. And it's a very delicate operation because Ma's bringing in a bit of a flounder, a bit of bird, a bit of something, and tearing it up into pieces that are, to start with, an eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch in diameter.
Right.
I mean, tiny, tiny little pieces, where in another week or 2 or a month, they'll be taking down great hunks the size of their head and being able to swallow them.
So one vole. For lunch today, we have one vole. Or perhaps a small mouse.
Well,
what would you prefer?
Or a flounder, part of a flounder.
Okay, and a flounder, why? Why not a salmon?
Because this pair of birds that you're looking at are over Crescent Beach, Boundary Bay.
Okay.
And Boundary Bay is the richest bald eagle habitat in the entire world. There are more eagles on the nesting around the outskirts of Boundary Bay than anywhere in the world.
Okay, so there she is again. Take a
Oh,
look.
okay, yeah.
Eagle Cans
that's
on
Mom.
Shaw.
Exactly, 7:30 to 8, and we have so many kids now watch it before they go to school.
I'm sure.
Yeah, and if they want to watch it further in the day, then they can tune into our website because it's running 24/7 on the website. Because even at night, there's infrared cameras that show what these birds do at night.
You know, this might beat the Shaw Christmas log.
I
You know, it
suggested
might.
this. That's partly how
I'm
why this
thinking-
is here.
I'm thinking sometimes the log has better ratings than I do. So I'm saying this eagle is competing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Now, where's Dad? I still don't understand where
Well,
Dad is. Is
Dad-
that Mom?
It was Mom
Was that
and
Mom?
it is Dad. Both eagles will actually sit and incubate the eggs.
Right.
But Ma does most of it, and Ma does most of it overnight. When they hatch, like they've just done this week,
Right.
Pa brings in most of the food.
I see. So he can go to the bar.
There you go.
I know about paws.
Yeah.
They say, I'm just going out for a bite to eat or to get some food for the kids.
And he's philandering down the coastline. Yes.
Exactly.
Well, or he's out there struggling, trying to make a living. I mean,
Of course.
Let's give him some credit.
I give him
because
some credit.
This pair is very successful. They've never lost a young that we know of.
Are they monogamous? Eagles?
Well, I'd like to say that, but
Okay.
DNA studies of most birds have found out that about 60%, 40% of the genetic material in most birds didn't originate from the presumed mother
Okay.
and father. So there's a little thing going on behind the hedge somewhere.
I see, but
it's
they're
possible
loyal.
with eagles. They're very loyal.
They're
They
loyal.
mate for life. Year after year, the same pair comes back to the same territory. But like all things, some may survive, some may die during the winter, they
Right.
may get shot, electrocuted. There's all sorts of reasons that one might not come back. But it's the territory that holds them. So if one mate is lost, that mate will gain
I
another
see.
mate.
And what would happen if another eagle tried to use the nest, basically? I know they're territorial. You've told me that before. So say another eagle says, gee, look at that nest, Herb. Let's go there.
Well, there'd be a battle. And there are battles as they're holding these nest territories. And occasionally, one of the sites, not our site here, but another one, has gone through three different females, in one breeding season. There's been 3 fights. One is lost and it's been replaced by another female, been replaced by another one. Now, we've not had that problem here.
Right.
Our pair have stayed together and have been able to defend the territory successfully.
Females fight or the
Both.
males fight? They both fight.
They both
Do
fight.
females fight males?
Not usually. It's usually
Okay.
a male fights a male and a female fights a female. Yes.
Right. So we hear about the eagle eye. How far can they see?
About 7 to 10 times better than we. And like if I held my 2 fingers up, I'm doing that in a nice gesture. If the point at which you got farther away and they blended to 1, about 7 to 10 times further, the eagle could still differentiate the 2.
Yes.
Their visual acuity is so much greater
Okay.
than ours. So a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile out on the edge of the water, they can see the fin of a fish come up. I mean, it's
Uncanny,
an awesome
really
sight. It
awesome.
is.
Someone told me it was either the red-tailed hawk or the eagle. They can see the urine of the vole in the field.
That's
The urine trail of a vole.
That's not the eagle.
Is that Hollywood?
That's one of the hawks and the owls are known to do that. Yes.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. Eagles are predominantly fish feeders, but
Okay,
they
right,
will eat.
yeah, sea eagles.
Yes, they're sea eagle. That's right. They will pick up a lot of roadkills, and that's one of the things that makes them so successful in this whole area. There's so many ducklings and
Right.
rodents and
Yeah.
rats and rabbits and cats killed on the roads every night. And our city eagles, you can see them in the daylight. They fly down one street, turn the next. They're road hunting. They're doing the job.
Of course they are. They're doing
the-
their job, but you know they have those designer feet, as you call them, the grips. They're not
Yeah.
wearing Louboutins, but they have got
They're their
the
equivalent.
strong feet.
Yeah.
And do they kill with their feet, their beaks, a little bit of both?
Predominantly, an eagle has such strong feet that once it grasps something and drives the talon
Right.
through it, that's really the end.
Okay, and how much do they weigh? How much would she
The
weigh?
male, females are always bigger. And the female would go 8.5 to 12 pounds. And the male, probably only 6 to 8 pounds. So the male is quite a bit smaller. And that's often thought to be so that they have, because there's shorter wings on the male than the female, tighter turning radius, it gives them access to hunting different kinds of prey. That's one thing. And the other thought is that female has to allow that male to stand on her back. You gave the lead-in about breeding. Well, it's an incredible moment for breeding in these big killing birds because that female has to allow the male to stand on her back so they can mate, and he's got his killing talons right dead center in her back. Well, I mean, that's a great moment of trust.
No kidding, what a girl will do for sex.
What? Exactly.
Hey, just thinking, my. Lifespan of the bald eagle?
They can live 20, 30 years. The big challenge is to live the first year because when they leave, when they fledge and they're abandoned by the parents, they know nothing about hunting. They have to learn it. And they have to migrate. That's what the first thing they do. They leave here and they migrate north where the earliest of the salmon runs are in Alaska, northern BC. So a young bird might fly 1,000 or 1,500 miles to get its first meal.
First meal, because the chum's easier to pick than some other things.
Well, the earliest salmon are in the north.
Okay.
And then as the spawning season for salmon is later as you come south. But our birds get off in July, get off the nest.
So these little eaglets will probably fledge
They'll fledge the middle to the late of July, and then they'll go north, possibly to Alaska, and then they'll come back again in the middle of winter when the salmon are like out at, and we hope you people are going to run our cameras in November, because we've got cameras that are going to be out in the middle of the Chehalis-Harrison estuary. Last year we had about 5,500 eagles. The winter before we had 10,000 eagles. It's the biggest gathering of eagles anywhere in the world.
I'd like to be there, and I thank you.
You come with us.
Thank you. I will, absolutely. Wildlife biologist David Hancock. Shaw is pleased to announce the 2012 Fill the Food Banks campaign is underway. For more information, visit togetherisamazing.com. Remember, you can catch all of our conversations on YouTube. Follow us on our new Twitter handle @Fanny Kiefer.